All right, to continue with the story. So, yeah, at this time in I don't know, I think it was probably like 2017, I moved back to Los Angeles. But I was living in my car for a little bit. And during that time, I went to Altadena 24 Hour Fitness and I bumped into my friend Malik, who I played when I was 12, or starting when I was like 11 and 12 years old. I played with him with South Coast. We were one of the best teams in the country. And I knew that his dad recorded a lot of the games. So I wanted to ask him, I wanted to ask him before, but I was too afraid. I wanted to ask people for basketball videos and I wanted to get my mom and dad to help me. But like I said, when I graduated from college, I wanted my mom and dad's support, but they were like, no, you got to go live in Kauai. And again, I didn't see them in person. I'm only talking to them on the phone because they refused to see me. They just assumed that I was mentally ill. So they're like, no, you have to live on Kauai. This is before I started posting my stuff online. So then when I went to Kauai, that's when I started posting all the stuff online, trying to get the Quadra model out. But my mom and dad didn't believe me about the Quadra model. They thought I was schizophrenic. They wanted me to live on Kauai with my grandpa. And they basically wanted me to just be like a prisoner over there. They wanted to just get me out of there, get me out of their hair and throw me to Kauai. They wanted me to be in a psych ward, really. But I wanted to stay in Los Angeles and get the Quadra model out. But they forced me to go to Kauai. And like I said, if they would have just talked to me, if they would have listened to me, helped me get basketball videos. I wanted to talk to my mom and dad about the past, about the basketball and everything. That would have been nice. But again, my grandpa came up with that rule. After the abuse that happened in high school, he was like, yeah, don't talk about the past because, if you're in the flow, you're in the paternal moment. So don't talk about the past. So I never did talk about the past. And I wanted to move on. But then when I'm trying to get the Quadra model out and, I'm trying to talk to my mom and dad and like, hey, can I see you guys? Can you guys give me a little support? They're like, no, my mom's like, stay in Kauai. I'm talking to them on the phone. Like I said, I don't see them in person. No, stay in Kauai. You can't be, you can't be in Los Angeles. You're not allowed to be back in Los Angeles. And so, I'm like, well, can I talk to dad? And she's like, no, you have schizophrenia. You're a loser. No, your dad's never going to talk to you. He's embarrassed he has a schizophrenic son. I just graduated from college. I had a bachelor's degree. I didn't have schizophrenia. And that's what the people at the psych ward said when my mom tried to force me there. They said, if your son graduated from college, then why do you think he had schizophrenia? He couldn't have graduated if he had schizophrenia. But my mom didn't know that. So, my mom was like, no, you felt you couldn't handle. And when I tried to explain to my mom about the shooting machine, I was like, well, mom, can you please help me get videos of when I was younger? And I was like, and I tried to explain to her, it wasn't my fault what happened in high school. Because I was like, can I talk to dad? And she was like, no, your dad doesn't want to talk to you. Don't you remember how you treated him in high school? He hates you. He wants nothing to do with you. So I'm like, okay, well, mom, listen. I figured out what happened. It was a shoot away machine. That's what happened. That's what messed up my shot. That's what messed everything up. My mom was like, oh my God, you don't take responsibility for anything. It wasn't a shoot-away machine. What happened was you couldn't handle the pressure and you fell apart and you started becoming mentally ill in high school. And in college, you became mentally ill and you became fully mentally ill. And you became schizophrenic. And I was like, Mom, I did well in college. And my mom was like, no, you didn't. You started to fall apart. You did terrible. Because like in my last class, I got a D. But I still graduated with a 3.1 GPA. But I got a D in a class on like eating disorders, but it was because I messed up on the Scantron. So I wanted to go back to school so I can fix that, but my mom wouldn't let me. She made me go to Kauai. Otherwise I would have fixed it. I probably would have gotten an A in the class because before the final, I had an A in that class. But my mom was like, "You're falling apart. You're mentally ill. You need to stay in Kauai. Go to Kauai and don't come back. You're not allowed to come back. If you come back, I'm gonna make your life hell." So I was stuck on Kauai, and that's when I started writing my stuff out, trying to get the Quadra stuff out. But my mom was hiding all my stuff. So that's when then I started, if I wasn't on Kauai, I wouldn't have been started writing all my stuff online. I would have been in college. I would have been doing stuff. So like I said, if my mom and dad would have just talked to me and seen me and just treated me normal, I could have gotten help getting my basketball videos. I wouldn't have gone to Kauai where I would write all the stuff and all this stuff would backfire. If they would have just talked to me and listened to me, all the crazy stuff would not have happened. But because I'm stuck on Kauai, I'm writing all this stuff out. I'm trying to get the Quadra stuff out. And then my mom's hiding all this stuff. So then I'm like, why is nobody responding to my stuff? Because my mom had my Facebook password, so she's hiding all my stuff. So then I start writing, well, they're not going to listen to my Quadra stuff. Well, then I'll tell them about my, ideas about the Bible, which were all communistic and basically saying that the Bible was fake. Because at the time, like I said, I was anti-white. I was a communist pretty much. And I was anti-religion because I was anti-white. I was basically like, I was anti-Christ. Like I was satanic. I was anti-religion, and now I know that. At the time, I didn't know that because I didn't study Hinduism at the time. Shukracharya in Hinduism is like Satan, and he's against religion, and he's against Vishnu worship. And he's for Shiva, who's the god of destruction, as opposed to Vishnu, who's the god of preservation. And I was very much against Vishnu worship. And Vishnu was worshipped by the Aryans, by the Brahmins. So I was anti-Aryan. And I wanted race mixing. And I wanted to, my ultimate goal would have been to create like a one world government with like 4 castes and have everybody race mix. Because I think it was because I saw myself as Jewish. And I didn't like white people. And I saw white people as the biggest threat. So I wanted to race mix the white people. So, so then I start writing my ideas out about that, about the Bible trying to undercut and subvert the Bible, saying how it's all fake and stuff, because I was anti-religion. Now, at the same time, though, like I knew that reality is like a matrix. It's like a spiritual matrix. So I understood that. But at the same time, like I was still stuck in my ego and I wasn't in the flow, but I didn't really understand. And my grandpa, like I said, he just confused me. And my grandpa made me even more of a left-winger communist, because when I got there, my grandpa was, told me like, oh yeah, the Jews are parasites in Germany. And, when I was trying to clean in his place, and he's like, oh, you don't even know how to clean? You are a parasite. And I'm like, Grandpa, don't call me a parasite. That's what they called the Jews. And my grandpa's like, well, the Jews were parasites. And I was like, in Germany, I was like, dude, so then I moved even more leftist, more communist. And my grandpa, so I was like, yeah, my grandpa's spirituality, that's all just white supremacy stuff. He likes Ayn Rand. And so anyways, if my parents would have just not put me on Kauai, if they would have just listened to me, if they would have just been kind, listened to me, helped me get basketball videos, I could have done huge stuff with basketball because I wanted to study the swag flow. If they just would have listened to me, I could have done stuff with the coach. So, but anyways, all the crazy stuff happened. But now back to like 2014, when I'm back in Los Angeles after all the crazy stuff happened, which wouldn't have happened if they wouldn't have if they would have not forced me to Kauai and just kept me in on the mainland, So when I'm in like 2016, 2017 and stuff, I'm basically homeless, living in my car. And I wanted a place to stay in Los Angeles, but my mom wouldn't give me a place to stay. But she just moved to, my family just moved to Texas at that time. But my mom wouldn't give me a place to stay in Los Angeles. So I was basically homeless. So I went to Altadena and I bumped into Malik. And I was like, and I wanted to ask Malik, do you have the basketball videos? But I was too afraid to ask him. And like I said, I wanted my mom and dad to maybe help me ask people and stuff. But I was too afraid because the way that I saw it was I didn't want to ask the people and then for them to say no, because maybe they didn't respect me because of my situation in life. Because I knew that I discovered the theory of everything, but I knew that people didn't know that. I knew that people might question if I discovered the theory of everything. They might look down upon me. They might think I'm crazy or something. But I knew that I discovered the theory of everything. So I didn't want to ask people at this point. I wanted to first get respect and get my stuff big and then ask people for the DVDs and to get videos of when I was younger. So I hang out with Malik a little bit, but at that time, like I said, my shot was still messed up because, as I said, when I was younger, with the shoot-away machine, it had messed up my shot. It made me shoot my left foot in front of my right, and my dad didn't know that. And I'm going to get more into details about this whole thing too. But it messed up my shot because I used to shoot like this. When my left foot pointed out, my right foot pointed toward the basket like this. The key is to have the left foot pointed out like this. But then, and the right foot's pointed toward the rim. But then when I got the shooting machine, I was picking the ball off the rack. And because the rack's right here, I had to step like this. And it's making me shoot my left foot from my right. And my left foot pointed forward, which was not how I shot before. And then my dad noticed that. And he's like, you're not shooting sideways. You're shooting square. You're shooting with left foot in front of your right. So then he tried to fix it he said, okay, well, put your left foot forward and put your right foot like this. Do the exact opposite of what I used to do. So anyways, but I wanted to get videos so I could study the swag flow. And I was one of the best players in the country. I wanted to study how I moved, study swag flow, the moves I did, study everything. And it would have helped me. And at the time, like I said, at that time, in 2017, I was still shooting with my left foot pointed forward and my right foot to the side. Because I had watched some of my videos. I had very few. And I had kind of fixed how I moved into shots. And I stopped moving into shots like I did when I was picking the ball off the shoot-away rack. But I was still doing what my dad taught me, to keep my left foot forward and my right foot to the side. Because I hadn't figured that out yet. I knew the shoot-away messed up my shot, but I still hadn't fixed it yet. So when I played with Malik, my shot was still messed up. And I wanted to ask him, hey, do you have videos? And if I would have just asked him, but again, my grandpa would be like, well, this was because you're trying to make things happen. Because you're in fear. You weren't in the flow. And maybe that's true. But also, if I would have had some support from my family and I wasn't homeless and I wasn't being mistreated, if they would have just talked to me and listened to me and I had some support, maybe I could have got on my videos, and maybe I wouldn't have been in such a bad state, and maybe I would have asked Malik, and I would have for videos and stuff. But anyways, I wanted basketball videos when I was younger, and I wanted to study the videos, and I wanted to study the swag flows, because I'm not going to get into details what the swag flow is, but I had the most out of anybody, and I wanted to study that. And so, but then, as I said, I was too afraid to ask Malik, so I didn't ask Malik for the videos, and I ended up, because I was like, I'll first get the quadrant model big, and then I'll ask people. So, but then I started hanging out with this guy, Rohan, and I ended up getting an apartment, and I had Rohan stay with me, and Rohan was taking me around, and he was kind of helping me try to get the quadrant model big, and he was like a spiritual Hindu guy, but he was kind of homeless at the time. But it's a long story, but I was staying with Rohan for like a year, but he ended up getting in trouble for like being accused of raping a woman, and he had to flee to India. But before he got in trouble for raping the woman, I got in a fight with him because we were in like, I don't know, we were up in the mountains with another one of his kind of Hari Krishna, one of his Hindu friends, but the Hindu friend was like half Arab, half Indian, half, whatever. And this white guy. And Rohan would try to be like super alpha male, and my grandpa would say this is top dog, underdog, dualistic software, self-confirmatory software, where he would be like, he would sit in the spot where the other guy was supposed to sit, and the other guy was like, hey, you said that you would move seats, and I would get the front seat in this ride. And then Rohan was like, no, I'm not going to do it, because Rohan was like super alpha. He wanted to be super alpha male, like I don't listen to anybody, I'm the super alpha male, like top dog, underdog, kind of even predator prey software. Like he would steal a lot of stuff. He would go to places all the time and steal things, and my grandpa would say that's predator prey software. It's dualistic narrow consciousness or whatever. But regardless, like he was hanging out with me. He was cool with me. But at the time, like my grandpa wasn't teaching me. So, but anyways, I ended up getting in an argument with Rohan, because I was like, dude, Rohan, you told him that you're going to give him a spot or whatever. And Rohan's like, Rohan says to me like, hey Ryan, not everything is fours or something like that. And I ended up getting mad, and I like punched the seat, and I was like, dude, fuck you, get out of here, bitch. And I was like, some people deserve to get beat up, and I said that to him. And then Rohan started texting me. He's like, dude, you threatened me, I'm gonna kill you, and basically that type of stuff. So at the time, my grandpa wasn't teaching me anymore. Like I said, I'd gotten in an argument with my grandpa because I wanted to start studying with him again, because I wanted my mom and dad to talk to me, and I was trying to tell him like, dude, grandpa, can you help my mom and dad start to talk to me and see me again? Like even Rohan, when he was in my place, he saw a video, and I'll post a video, but he saw a video of me shooting with my dad, and this was before the shoot away machine, and in this video, I'm shooting overhead. I think my dad probably thought the reason why my shot got messed up because I started shooting overhead, but this is before the shoot away machine, and I was moving into it perfect. My feet were perfect because I wasn't picking the ball off the rack, and I was shooting overhead, and I made every single shot. And if it wasn't for the shoot away machine, that's the way I would have been. I was always exponentially getting better. I would have been phenomenal, but that's not what happened. I got the shoot away machine and messed up my shot. So Rohan, people are going to assume that I have a personality disorder or something. They're going to assume things like that. They're going to assume, oh, that's why his parents won't talk to him. They're going to assume the worst. People tend to blame the victim. But in my case, so Rohan's like, you're a normal guy, and he looks at the videos, and he's like, dude, there's a video of you shooting with your dad, and you're making all your shots, and your dad seems super happy, and what happened? Why the hell did he go from this to your dad and mom not even talking to you? And I was like, yeah, you see, it's crazy, because I want people to know that it wasn't always that way. My mom and dad loved me. They treated me really well. Things were really good. It changed. It became that way after the shoot away machine. And that's why I want to say it wasn't me. My mom wants to blame me. They want to blame me. They want to blame the victim. No, it was a shoot away machine. But anyways, so after I got in the argument with Rohan and he started to threaten me, I showed my grandpa, and then my grandpa, he wasn't teaching me for a long time. Now, when he wasn't teaching me, I started writing a based on true storybooks. But again, I still didn't understand my grandpa's teachings, but I wrote them in a way to try to get my grandpa to start teaching me again. So in the books, I was writing about how, the first books I wrote, I was saying how, I felt that my grandpa was, he made my parents into kind of like right-wingers and made them non-compassionate and kind of like Nazi-like, and that's why they threw me to the side. So, like my grandpa would teach like, don't give to the poor because that enables them. And it helps them not be in the flow. And giving to the poor can actually hurt the poor because then they can get drugs. And that's what Paul meant by, the good that you would, you do not, but that which you would not, you end up doing. So, you want to give to the poor and do good, but you end up doing bad because you end up, increasing, enabling them to not get jobs. And jobs is a part of the synergy of the universe and helps people to be hardworking and lose themselves and transcend themselves, and as opposed to being more restricted in the self. And so my grandpa, basically, I was like, dude, and he was like a fan of Ayn Rand and stuff. And I was like, because that's a part of self-transcendence and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're basically just a Nazi. You're just a white supremacist, dude. That's the way I saw it. So I'm writing about this. And I'm saying, and that's why, and the thing was like my mom, I remember my mom would be like, yeah, don't give to the poor because that just enables them. That just, they should just get a job. But my grandpa even told me, my grandpa was like, yeah, your mom doesn't understand my teachings. He was like, your mom's just very judgmental, and he said that she expresses dualistic software. So when she's like, yeah, don't give to the poor, that just enables them. They should get a job. He says that she does that in a predator-prey mode of being, as opposed to inspiration and understanding. She just is more predator-prey, and she doesn't really understand. She doesn't really have any self-transcendence or understanding of what she's saying. So, but I felt that my grandpa was the one who, his ideologies of metapsychiatry, the existential metapsychiatry, to take responsibility. I feel like his teachings really hurt me, and it encouraged my parents, or at least influenced them, to treat me way worse than they would have had he not been involved. I feel like he made things 1,000 times worse for me, his teachings. And even if they did misinterpret them, as my grandpa says, the fact of the matter is they misinterpreted them. And his teachings are very easy to misinterpret. Even they fucking confused the hell out of me. So I'm like, he made me into a Nazi. And I think that he made them into Nazis as well. So I started writing about that. But then at the same time, I was trying to get my grandpa to start teaching me again. But as I'm writing about that, I'm like, my grandpa's whole thing about like, yeah, you should get a job and you should work and be a part of the anti-entropic reordering function. And I was like, well, dude, if you wouldn't have hurt me, maybe I would be playing basketball right now. And he even said that that's a part of the synergy of the universe, to play professional basketball and stuff. If he wouldn't have hurt me, if you guys would just listen to me, as opposed to like trying to make me independent, and if you would just listen to me, maybe I could get the quadrant model big, and I wouldn't be, dependent. Because my grandpa's whole thing is like, don't be dependent, because if you're dependent, then that's ally enemy software, because the person you're dependent on, you have either ally enemy software with him, because if he does what you want, then he's your ally and you like him, but if not, he's your enemy, and that's dualistic software, so that supports us being independent. And I'm like, well, dude, I might be independent if you guys wouldn't have tried to force me to be independent, and you would have helped me a little bit. Maybe I could have got my stuff off the ground. But again, my grandpa also just didn't understand. He didn't understand that I had the dualistic software and that I was anti-white, because I never explained that to him. But he's not a good teacher. He's obviously not discerning. He didn't help me to get deeper understanding. He was a bad teacher. He just confused me. And it took me a long time studying on my own to understand, reading Dr. Horace's books to understand what my grandpa was trying to teach me, because he didn't do a good job explaining to me. So anyways, he just confused me. So I'm writing my book, my based on true story book, and I'm just confused. And I'm putting it online, and I'm trying to get my grandpa to teach me again. But my mom, I think, read the book, and then so my mom starts changing her tune. Remember, before she's like, "Oh, Ryan, you can't work. You're never gonna work the rest of your life. You need to get Social Security. You have mental illness. You're schizophrenic." She changed from being like that to being like, "Why don't you just get a job? The reason why we won't talk to you is because you don't have a job and you're not independent." Because that's what my grandpa was spouting on about, and my grandpa was probably talking to them. So, my grandpa's like, "Well, you need to be independent and get a job and be a part of the anti-entropic reordering function." I'm like, so then my mom starts to change. But again, so I told my grandpa about how my mom changed, and now she's like, "You need to get a job, and that's why we hate you. That's why we won't talk to you." So, and again, this is on the phone. I never seen them. I hadn't seen them since high school. I saw them a few times in college. And in college, I was good. I wasn't bad. The only bad thing that happened was I showed them the quadrant model. They didn't believe it. And they were like, "You need to take medicine." So I'm trying to get the quadrant stuff out. I'm doing all that. But then my grandpa, like I said, he wasn't teaching me. But I'm writing the based on true story book. But then, the stuff happened with Rohan. And so it's like only when bad stuff would happen would my grandpa start teaching me again. And that's a kind of crazy thing too. I think that my grandpa is the perfect person to make someone crazy. Like, he made my uncle crazy. He just makes people crazy. Like, he does a perfect job in driving people insane. I think he made my mom and dad crazy. He's supposed to be a psychologist to make people not crazy. He makes people the most crazy out of anybody. So when things are going bad, it's almost like he rewards bad behavior. So I got in the argument, I got in a fight with Rohan, and he starts to threaten me, and then my grandpa started teaching me again. Because he maybe felt bad for me or something. So he starts teaching me. So I started studying with him. But again, then my grandpa he's trying to teach me about the anti-entropic reordering function, and everything is energy, and I'll get more into this in a little bit, but I think that, again, like, I went from being a leftist, and then I think that he moved me again to being a right winger. Like, he moved me, and then that was around 2018, and I was moving back to becoming a right winger, kind of like Nazi again, because that's what my grandpa was teaching me. I felt, because he didn't do a good job teaching me, and I didn't understand what he was talking about. So I'll get more into that.